Hey, everybody, Pat and Doug here with another episode of the Wealthy Gym Owners. And today we're going to talk about lessons learned from grand opening. So it doesn't really matter if you're going through a grand opening yourself right now or you're just trying to scale up your gym. Lots of takeaways Doug's going to share from the grand opening he's currently experiencing. So, Doug, take it away.
Yeah, I got four big ones. I'll unpack and we'll kind of pause at each one. And just for context, we're recording this and I am in the midst of the grand opening. So we are not open yet. We are pre-selling memberships. We are hiring staff. We are ordering equipment and getting quotes and contractors. And so right in the thick of it. So I figured it'd be good to capture lessons now and then potentially when we're actually, after we're open and the grand opening is actually done and up and running, maybe more some reflection-based stuff. But I figure while I'm in the thick of it right now, it would be good to chat through. So the first one is for entrepreneurs. It doesn't sit well. I know we also have a boardroom member right now doing a build out, and he's facing this as well, which is there is a lot in business and in life that is out of your control and moves slower than you anticipated. So examples of that we certainly did not anticipate was things like permitting, right? So at least in the state of Maine, you got to go to the state and get your fire safety permit, and then you go into the town. Well, the town's ready to roll, but they can't do anything until the state approves their permit. And obviously at state level, they get a bit higher volume, and so they're moving slower. Other example, we had a slight modification to we're purchasing the space that our building is in and that the gym's going to be in. And we added like 15 square feet just based upon where one of the walls is going to go. And the appraisal that needs to get done or was getting done used the old square footage because they weren't previewed to the small change in square footage. Well, we're going on 2.5 weeks now of the appraisal needs to be updated in order for us to close with the new square footage. And they haven't changed it with the 15 square feet. So little things like that. I think as entrepreneurs, the lesson would be we tend to have pretty aggressive timelines. We think things are going to take 2 weeks and they end up taking 6 weeks. We think, and I think clients face this, right? We see clients with this, hey, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 20 days. And we know that's probably going to take them a year. So just lesson number one is the runway that we have for our grand opening. I would always wish that it was a little bit longer. We're obviously trying to get open as soon as we can, but things are out of our control, and being able to mentally wrap your head around the challenges and emotions that go with that certainly can be challenging.
Well, yeah, the control what you can control, that's a big deal. I mean, I do remember back when we were opening up a health club that I own, it happened to be in a floodplain and it got pushed back 8 months. Like this whole building of the shopping center this was going in got pushed back 8 months. And so in the beginning, it's like you're kind of freaking out a little bit, you're panicking. Then finally you recognize like, man, freaking out doesn't really help. What can I control? Can I do some pre-sale stuff? Can I be building out any of the assets, the systems we're going to need? Because I'm not having any luck on this other stuff. So there's probably a life takeaway there as well as a business takeaway. But I mean, that's just part of business. You hear it all the time with construction, right? It takes a third longer and costs a third more every time you get into it. So that's a pretty powerful initial takeaway. What else you got?
So I think it's the second one I wrote down was looking at it from where's the bottleneck right now? Where's the constraint of the grand opening? And I think that this is not unique to grand opening. This is probably the constraint for most gym owners, which is the people side of things, the hiring side of things, right? So we have I would say a really strong blueprint for the pre-sale marketing we're doing. I mean, we're running paid advertising, we're doing local business visits, and all of that, we're either controlling ourselves and executing the labor ourselves, or we're paying somebody to make sure that it gets done, right? And so that feels very much like a blueprint where for the most part, with I think combined experiences, you have proven models of what's going to attract people to sign up, because it's a challenge specific to the grand opening. It is a challenge to sell somebody into something that does not exist yet. And so that I think is proven, but the bottleneck is the people, the hiring, right? And so, and I think that's not unique to grand opening. That's probably the case for everybody. You can, with the right coaching, with the right people on your team, you can, once you find those right people, whether that's inside your facility or outside, a lot of the rest of the business has pretty proven blueprints, proven playbooks. But hiring people, although you can follow some steps, there's not a proven playbook. And so examples would be, we're advertising for a head coach position for this location. We start advertising, we start getting inquiries in the door, we schedule some interviews. Of course, you have a percentage of those interviews that don't show. And we're trying to sell somebody into a job that is for a facility that is not open yet. And so we get one person, they sign on, and then over the weekend, they send us a, hey, changed our mind kind of thing. Then our second one comes around, we find a rock star, we think, and they sign contract that they're going to start, and they say they're moving down to Maine or moving down to the southern part of Maine, and come to find out that they moved in with their family and they're had a change of heart of what they want to do. So now we're on our third person of a head coach, right? And so I think just a reminder that the people aspect of it is we're being relatively patient, right? We're fortunate enough where we still have probably 4 to 6 weeks to find somebody. And so, and talk about playbooks, like our hiring playbook is pretty dialed in where people raising their hand that they're interested is not the issue. The issue we're finding is, hey, you're a good fit. We like you, but we're not open yet, so you can't start. We're trying to solve that problem, which is most likely going to be they're going to start at our first location, in that way we can start them right away and get them in the door. But I think lesson for everybody would just be a kind of twofold. One would be the hiring of making the job attractive enough. That has not been a bottleneck of ours. Getting plenty of people to raise their hand to say they're interested, making sure that's dialed in, be very clear of who you're looking for, the type of person you're looking for, etc. But then people are people, and there's emotions and decisions that go on beyond outside of the conversation that you have with them. And so there's no perfect blueprint for getting the hiring figured out exactly. So that certainly has been a reminder.
Yeah, I would say one of my big takeaways from this, and it's not I mean, I experienced this all the way back even as a college baseball coach. It's like, you have to keep the pipeline full throughout, because people are going to be people, and people are going to decide, hey, I can't do this because change is scary, right? Like, so getting on board with this and maybe moving to a new town or something like that, it's easy for people to get cold feet. So the easiest way to probably combat this for any of us is continually filling the pipeline, and don't kind of put all your eggs in one basket saying, hey, I've got this one person and they're going to solve everything. I mean, I can remember back to even recruiting college players, and it's like, hey, if I bet everything on getting this shortstop, and then all of a sudden the shortstop then will leave their girlfriend at home, then I'm out of luck. So it's like, man, you got to have more people in the pipeline throughout. And if you're doing that, then you're basically kind of insulating yourself from just being left kind of hanging. And I mean, obviously you guys are in a good spot with that, with continuing to market and continuing to have leads and keep the pipeline full. But I think a lot of people in our industry, they kind of say, well, I've got this great person and everything kind of hinges on them. And then, like, what happens if that person has a change of heart? If their circumstances change, then you're kind of painted into a corner.
Yeah, the pipeline analogy is always a good one. And just, I think it's really sometimes funny to think about how similar hiring people and attracting clients into your gym are similar. Like, if you are never marketing, there's never going to be anybody in that pipeline. And so it's going to take you a while to fill that pipeline. Like, people don't go from knowing about you to joining your gym, right? And so if we're always marketing, then there's always going to be people at different stages of that pipeline ready to join. And it's similar. It's certainly similar with the hiring aspect. So reminders and lessons learned there. The third one is, 2011 is when I purchased equipment and flooring and all the materialistic things that go with opening gyms. So, I mean, we're talking from this recording, we're talking 14 years ago. And so Two things. One, obviously the costs have been substantially different, but that was obvious. And I think this is a different approach, right? In 2011, I did Craigslist equipment and kind of found driving around used equipment, found what I could, kind of piecemealed things together. And this has been more of a, let's start out strong with kind of a complete branded solution. So some lessons with kind of the purchasing of some of that stuff and pricing some of that things. One, I was humbly reminded that flooring is just as expensive as equipment. And so when you look at square footage of your space, and this I think would be applicable obviously for grand opening, but maybe some of you that are looking for larger space or you want to move to a new space, our flooring is going to cost just as much as all of our equipment. And that to me is mind boggling because you don't really think about that as something to be, I mean, most of us, when we're opening a gym and we're thinking through the lens of, okay, what do we need in it? We're very hyper focused on what do we want for equipment in there. We forget that it's just as expensive to put flooring down on the space as it is to fit out the equipment. So when we look at things like square footage, most of the flooring is priced on a per square foot basis. So you can very quickly increase your costs by saying, hey, instead of having 1,500, I want 1,800 just to have more room. And I don't, oftentimes, at least in the training gym world, if you say go from, let's say you're in a space now that's 1,500 square feet and you find a space that's a good deal and you want to move and it's 2,400 square feet. Well, equipment wise, you might not even actually need any more equipment, right? You just want more open space in the training gym. That's very valuable. So, but what you didn't factor in was you now need 600, 700, 800 square feet more flooring. And depending upon what you're doing there, I mean, that could be $5,000 right there that we didn't plan on. So I think a great reminder for what are those things that you don't think are relatively a large part of the budget until you start to line out of it and you realize that it's 50% of your budget. The other thing I would say when it comes time to kind of the purchasing of equipment and flooring and all the kind of accessory items that the physical items that go along with it is nowadays, I think the consumer is very much in control of pricing in the sense of most of that is very public and front facing. And so I think we did very well with our equipment where we maintained relationships, like we didn't burn any bridges. But we also were very clear and transparent with, hey, this vendor over here is giving us this, and this vendor over here is giving us this. Can you come close to it? And that saved us literally thousands of dollars once they realized, hey, we also want to maintain this relationship. And so we can come close to that. We even saw that with our financing, like having multiple banks bid out the financing for the purchase and say, hey, this bank gave us this rate. Can you match it? And so I think there's an art to that where you don't also try to be so cheap and kind of burn the bridge. But I will say sometimes I know earlier in my career, I would have been not as confident to negotiate some of that stuff. I would have just, if they told me that was the price, then I'd say okay or not okay. And I wouldn't ever try to push back on it. But I do think that with a lot of that stuff, there is an art to the negotiation where you don't offend them, you don't lose the relationship. It's still with kindness, but you can make some pretty good savings on that stuff.
Yeah, the cost of things are what they are for the vendor too, but they're going to be able to say, okay, I'd rather have some margin here than not get the sale at all or whatever else in many cases. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said with tactful and friendly negotiation. So very good. You've got 3 knocked down. What's number 4?
Yeah, so I would say the last one is a marketing lesson in that it's been around different iterations for decades, but the sweepstakes, the giveaway is a really strong play that if you're not running in your gym on a regular basis, I would strongly consider fitting it into your marketing plan. So as an example, we were not quite ready to, we didn't have a space secured, but we wanted to kind of get the word out that we were going to be opening in the town. And we wanted to build a wait list of people. that we could follow up with and potentially sell into founders memberships. And we were trying to brainstorm a hook that was strong enough. Like, why would you join a wait list? What's the reason? There's really no incentive. So what we were able to do is say, hey, if you join the wait list, you'll be entered to win a 3-month membership. So now there's an incentive. Hey, I'm going to be put in a raffle to win a 3-month membership. And I mean, that gave us, I think, 180 some odd leads. And we've been able to sell, I think as of yesterday, 11 or 12 of them right into founders memberships. And we hadn't even promoted the founders membership yet, right? Like, our founders membership is a special membership that we'll be promoting now that the sweepstakes is over. But I think the sweepstakes was a good reminder of, we knew it was a strong play, and it kind of proved itself that it can work really at any stage. So to make it practical for everybody, it's obviously a great play, as I just shared, for grand opening. I think it's a great play for new businesses that we work with, people that are just dabbling into marketing, just dabbling into paid advertising. They don't have an email, like a large email list. So even if you think about it with this play where it doesn't even, like, yes, we hope it generates clients, but it doesn't even need to generate clients for it to have an ROI, because the giveaway, if you can generate, I mean, we just had a boardroom client yesterday that told us 200 and some odd leads from their giveaway last month. So it's a strong offer, right? It's a raffle. People like to enter to win stuff. It's a pretty basic play, but it's great for building your list, right? So if you don't have, I have a Project 500 client that just started with us. He's got no email list, zero, just his contacts and his phone. And so we can run that giveaway on social. We could run that giveaway in local businesses where we're raffling off a 3-month, and then people either scan a QR code or enter a ticket to win. So I think it's a great play that any training gym owner could adapt to use, regardless of whether it's a grand opening, building an email list, and then I think ongoing. You certainly can't run it too much where in your local community to get burnt out from it, but twice a year, I think, is a good kind of rhythm to run that play.
I love it. And I love seeing things that I think have historically worked, kind of getting a fresh coat of paint and coming back. And I mean, there are a lot of things that kind of fall in that category, but that definitely is something that I know was useful for me just when I started out as a gym owner. And it's still just as useful, or maybe considerably more useful now, because there's greater ability to get massive distribution. So yeah, it's great to see stuff like that work. And I mean, we've seen it not just with the top end guys like you or like Levi from Boardroom or whoever else, but I mean, we see it work with people that are early stage owners, those people just kind of breaking the seal and getting started running ads. It's an easy kind of play to get started with.
Yeah, for sure. Real tactical tip on that to end, I would say, make sure that it is like like 3 months, I think, is a sweet spot for gym owners if you are going to run that play, because mistakes we've seen is the giveaway is not strong enough. The reality is, like, everybody is giving away 7 days, 14 days, 21 days. Like, it has to feel like a kind of a complete solution. The equivalent of back in the health clubs may even still do it, but I know back when I was more around the health club world, it was a year membership. Or the car dealerships, I always use the car dealership, like they would give away a car. And so it has to be the free cruise giveaway. Like, it has to be something that's like, holy crap, they're actually giving this, one person's going to win this. So, because your magic, of course, is that one person gets it, but the magic is everybody else that didn't get it is going to get kind of second place, and you're still going to try to get them in your door. So just make sure that prize is strong enough.
Well, I mean, you've covered 4 key takeaways or lessons from grand opening. Anything you want to add in conclusion? Anything you want to do to wrap it up before we go?
Yeah, I would just say that the marketing piece of it is 90% of our time right now. And I think that for any gym owner, whether you're grand opening or not, that's one kind of last lesson that I remember when I opened my gym, there was zero marketing, like zero. It was just buy some equipment and start trying to find people to train, and hopefully they would walk through the door and sign up. But it's been pretty fun to watch. It's been a decade since I've done a grand opening, over a decade. So it's being able to have the marketing be consistent from day one and already have signups of memberships, and we haven't even opened our doors yet. It's pretty powerful. So just a great reminder for marketing is always going to be, whether it's day zero or you're 10 years in, you're always going to need to be marketing. And so just making sure you execute on that to keep the business growing.
Love it. Well, hopefully you got some takeaways from this today. You learned a few things, or maybe adopted a couple ways of thinking about things that help you regardless of the stage of your journey, grand opening or fully established business. And that's another episode of The Wealthy Gym Owners, signing off.